Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, starting with Daf Chav Beis Amud Beis, 9 lines from the bottom. The Gemara established the opinion of Rabbi Abahu that says when it says in the Torah, do not eat lo soichal or lo soichlu, it means not only do not eat, there's a prohibition not to have hana. We saw also when it says lo yei ochel, not just lo yoichal, like Rabbi Abahu holds, but lo yei ochel, then even Chizkiah agrees that the passive form that it shall not be eaten comes to imply that anything, not only the actual eating, but anything that will then bring to then an eating, even hana, is also prohibited. The Gemara now challenges V'harei orla derachamana omar. In regards to orla, the Torah says that it's prohibited to eat the fruits that are on the tree for the first 3 years of a new tree. States, or orelim lo ye ochel, and it says in the passive form. So here we would have a question that both according to Rabbi Abo and even Chizkiah, it implies that there should not be there should be a prohibition of hana as well. V'tanya, it states, arelim lo ye ochel, ainli ela iser achila. The Brisa says, I only know an iser of eating. Minayin shelo yehena mimenu, that you can have hana from it as well. Shelo yitzba boy, you cannot color, you cannot dye using the klipos, the shells of the fruits. V'lo yalik boy zaner, you can't use the insides like the shemen of those fruits in order to then make an air. Tal muloymar v'araltem arlosoi areilim lo ye ochel l'rabos es kulam. So here the Brisa states clearly, because of the ribui of araltem arlosor areilim lo ye ochel, therefore we know not only is it prohibited to eat the fruits, but also to then get hana from those fruits, the inside and the outside. Says the Gemara, Taima de Kosrachman va'araltam arlosoi areilim holav hochi hava min isar achila mashma isar hana loy mashma. But we would not then know otherwise that it's Asr Bahana if it just said Lo Ye'ochel alone. Kasha again, both on Chizkiah and Kolshkin on Rabbi Abahu. Answers the Gemara, Lo Oilam Lo Ye'ochel Mashma Bein Isra Achila Bein Isra Hana. Really, it is Mashna both. If so, what did the Brisa mean to say with the additional Araltem or Losoy Arelim? Says Gemara, V'shayni hasam d'chsiv, it says lochem. Lochem implies that it is going to then also be yours to have enjoyment, to have hana. V'itztrich, sal kataitach amina, you might think that I should say hoyel v'kosov lachem, since it's written lochem, shelochem yekam yehei. It should be yours to have enjoyment. Kamash malon, the additional words of araltem, arlosoi, arelim, teaches us otherwise. Ve'elo hashtu dechsive hanach kroi. Now that it says in that posuk, these psukim, these words of araltem, arlosoi, arelim, then lochem lamali. Lachem implies that there is something that is going to be mutter over here. Why do we need lachem? Answers Gemara like it states in the following brisa, lachem. L'rabois es hanatua l'rabim. Lachem comes, says the Tanakama, to include the iser of hana, of those things that are going to be planted for the rabim. That also is included in the iser of hana or of the orla. Top of Chav Gimel Amud Aleph, Rabbi Yehuda oimer lahoitzi es hanatua l'rabim. Rabbi Yehuda argues and says that it comes to be matir, those plants, those fruit trees that are planted for the rabbim, let's say put in the planted in the public thoroughfare, those would be permitted to get hana from the orla. My taima de Tanakama. What is the reason? Asked the Gemara of the Tanakama. Dechsiv, it says untatem, and you shall plant, in plural, liyachid mashma l'rabim lo mashma. Since the normal way of planting is for the individual, not for the populace, therefore even though it says in Lashon plural, it comes to say that kol echad ve'echad, each and every person shall plant a fruit tree, and then have the halachos of orla. Kosav rachmana lachem lahavias antu l'rabim. Therefore, it says lachem to come and say that the orla is also prohibited. Then, when you go ahead and plant it for the rabbim, that's what lachem is coming to teach us. Rabbi Yehuda, who is choylek, and he says it comes to then matir the orla when it's planted for the rabbim. How does he learn? Unetatem mashm bein l'rabbim and liyochid. Because the word untatem, the kipshuto is that it's talking in the plural. That means in all forms. To the yachid who plants for the yachid and for the rabbim. And therefore, bein berabbim ben beyachid, it's mashma. V'lachem, and to you also then has the same implication, plural. Bein yachid ben rabbim mashma. That when it's going to be for you, for the individual and for the rabbim as well. Therefore, we have the klal, have a ribui acha ribui. There's a klal that the Gemara uses that's when it's talking about in the Torah a ribui, so that should be sufficient. The fact that it adds another ribui, that is already seemingly superfluous. So from there, Chazal learn out a klal, ein ribui acha ribui elalamait. The first klal is, it says untatem, that's one ribui, to include the yachid and the rabbim. Then when it says lochem, a second ribui that seems to be therefore superfluous, comes to then mimait. And therefore over here say that it's not going to be aser, the orla, for those that is going to be planted for the rabbim. Now truthfully, I don't really understand fully how this klal works in terms of its svara. Because when you have a klal that says a ribui, so if anything I might think that maybe something's missing in the ribui. On that it says another ribui. And therefore I don't know, maybe that this klal is coming to say that is memai, maybe it's coming to say it is marbe. Al koponim, it's not clear to me how it works, but nonetheless, we have a klal, ein ribui, achar ribui, elo lemait. Ask the Gemara from Truma, v'harei Truma. Behold, in regards to Truma. Now, Truma Gedoyla is taken out when a person has a field. The very first thing that he takes out after there's a gathering and a pile that is made, there's a gemar of the peiros, and he smooths out the pile. The very first thing that's taken out from that is going to be Truma Gedoyla that's given to a kohen. There's also an additional Truma when the Levi is given his meiser, he also is to give out truma from that meiser to the kohen. So it says over here, the Torah says, "V'chol zar lo yoichal kodesh," that anybody who's a non-kohen shall not eat kodesh. Kodesh refers to truma. And again, Rabbi Abo understands not only that is a prohibition of lo yoichal to be on an iser v'achila, but also an iser v'hana. V'tnan, it states yet ma'arvin lenazir v'yayin u'lisor b'truma. Here it states that a Yisrael can take truma and use it for his erev techumin. For erev techumin, a person only has 2,000 amos to walk in each direction from his makom shvisa, and he can then be koine shvisa with an eruv. So it states over here that the Yisrael can have hana from the truma. That means he can use that truma for using it as his eruv. Now, although his eruv has to be something that's being potentially edible by the person who's using it for his eruv, in this case the Yisrael, but the Yisrael can go ahead and mevatil the truma so that it's going to then not be truma anymore, and ultimately he can use it in a way that's edible for him. But al kafonim, we see that it's mutter bahana. So this is a kasha Rabbi Abo. Answer the Gemara, Papa shiny hasam damakro trumaschem. It states in regards to truma, shelochem tehei. It states that it shall be yours in inclusion of hana. The idach, and the other one, what does he do? Meaning Chizkiah, he doesn't need a heter of hana. He already knows that it's mutter bahana because it says lo yoichal, only an isser of eating. Trumaschem de kol Yisrael ka'omar. It's talking to all of Yisrael, meaning all of the Levim, who then are going to have the truma. It's talking to them. They can have hana as well from this truma. Says the Gemara, v'harei nazir. Let's ask now from nazir. The nazir is prohibited for certain things, specifically. Here the Gemara is dealing with anything that is a product of grapes. Says the Gemara, "Derachmana omar mechartzanim v'ad zog lo yoichel." All the things of grapes, from the peels of those grapes, all the way until the seeds of the grapes, you shall not eat. Referring to the Nazir, Vitnan, and yet it states, Ma'arvin le-Nazir b'yayin, that the Nazir, as we saw before in the Mishnah, he can use yayin as his eruv techumin. So here we see again that although Rabbi Abo says lo yoichal not only means it's prohibited to eat, but it's also prohibited to have hana, yet the Nazir can use the yayin for hana to make it being used for his eruv techumin. Says the Gemara, and again, it has to be something that's edible by the one who's using the eruv techumin, in this case the Nazir. So here also he has a loophole that he can go ahead and nullify, he can get out of his Nazirus, thereby becoming then mutter for him to drink the yayin. Al kopanim, but we see again that it's mutter bahano. On marzuta shiny hasam damakro, it says nizroi. Shaloy yehe. That we darshan nizroi, his nezer, mean to say that he has hana, he could have hana from these grapes, from the wine. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi says, Kadosh yeh. He has a different limud. It says, Kadosh yeh. It shall be Kadosh to him. Gadel pera se'ar roisha, referring to the hair that is to grow on his head. Giduloi Kadosh ve'ein davar acher Kadosh. His giduloi of the locks that he grows on his head, that hair is called Kadosh. And therefore, that is Kadosh, and that is prohibited to have hana from, but other things, including the grapes and the wine, is not asr bahana. Ask the Gemara, midi ve'ein davar acher ksiv. Does it say that there's nothing else other than the hair over here that is kadosh? No, it doesn't say that. And therefore, ela mechavarta kidamar zutra. We have to go back to the first limud, that the reason why it's mutter bahana is because the way Marzuta told us, not Marzuta rather, but because the way, like Marzuta told us, that because it says Nizroi Shelo Yehei. Now the Gemara asks from Chodosh, this is the new grain that only becomes mutter to be eaten after the korban is brought on the second day of Pesach, a special korban oimer, not a korban oimer, it's the lechem korban, the saor that's brought as a flour offering on the second day of Pesach, yes, the korban oimer, and that will matir the new grain that becomes now mutter to be used. So Gemara says by Chodesh, Derachmana Omar v'lechem v'koli v'karmel lo yisoichlu ad etzem hayom hazeh, until that second day of Pesach, where the korban oimer will be brought, the flour offering is going to be a barley offering. So here, the states over here, lo yisoichlu, and again, according to Rabbi Abahu, therefore it means not only is it osir be'achila, it's osir b'hana. V'tnan, yet it says in the Mishnah, koitzer l'shachas u'machil lebehema. You can harvest that which is not grown. It's only, some opinions say, a third grown, and it's not considered to be a full ketzira. U'machil lebehema, and you can pull out those full-grown wheat to then give it to an animal to eat. So over here we see that although you cannot eat it, but you can give it to your animal to eat, and therefore it's mutter bahana. Omra Shmaya shiny hasam domakro, it states kitzir chem. Kitzir chem shalachem yehei, a ribui coming to include that you can have hana from this chodosh. Vaharei asked the Gemara now of Ve'idach, and according to Rabbi Chizkiyahu, who does not learn lo soichlu to include in Isser Hana, anyways mutter bahana. What does he need Kitzirchem to teach? Kitzirchem, he says, the Kol Yisrael Mashma, coming to teach, to speak to all of Klal Yisrael in the plural form. So it's not used for a drasha. Now ask the Gemara from Shrotzim, Vaharei Shrotzim, Drachman Omar Shaketz Hu Lo Ya'echel, it shall not be eaten, that which is an abomination. V'tnan, it states in regards to this, Tzayadi chaye v'oifes v'dogim shenizdamnu hem minin tmein, those who are hunting all types of chayos, oifes, and dogim, and it comes upon them when they then take their they take their nets when they catch, let's say, these dogim. There's minei tmeim that come inside of these nets, shrotzim. Mutar in the moicher and the nachrim. It states over here, b'di'eved, you can sell them to nachrim. That means you can get hana. Says the Gemara, shiny hasam domar kro. The pasuk states, lochem. Shalochem yeh. There's an inclusion over here that it should be yours in order to get hana from. Ask the Gemara, then you should also lechatchila be able to then sell the shrotzim. Why would it say only if it comes into your nets? Well, then you'll be able to sell it to the nachim, get hana. B'di'eved. Answers the Gemara, shiny hacha domar kro. It says yiyu. Bahavyasan you. That means it shall remain in the state of Isser as being an abomination, and therefore only b'di'eved can you go ahead and sell and have hana from these shrotzim. And according to Chizkiah, lamali lemichtav lo ye'ochel u'maisi lochem lemishrei. According to Chizkiah, that says it states lo ye'ochel, which comes to include also an Isser of hana. So why does it say lochem? Why does it say also this inclusion then, that you can also have benefit from it? Hare, asked the Gemara, loy lichta rachmanu lo ye'ochel v'lo yiboy lochem. In other words, according to Rabbi Abbo, there's no other way. Lo yoichlu and lo yoichel and lo yoichel is the same thing. But according to Chizkiah, you could just say lo yoichel. Why say lo ye'ochel and then bring lochem? Just don't bring lo ye'ochel and write lo yoichel. And then you don't have to have lochem. Answer the Gemara, Omer lo Chizkiah, taimo dididi nami mehocha. Chizkiah says, this is exactly the source where I learn this concept. That when it says lo yoichal, it only means there's an Isser prohibition against eating. When it says lo ye'ochel, like it states over here, not only does it mean it's prohibited to eat, it also means it's prohibited to have hana. Therefore, when it says lochem, there's an additional heter that you can have hana. But from here we learn out, lo ye'ochel is different than lo yoichal, says Chizkiah, that it's also prohibited to have hana. Says the Gemara of Harei Chametz, the Rachmano Mar lo ye'ochel chametz. Here in regards to chametz, it says chametz shall not be eaten. Again, a prohibition of not only eating, but also not to get hana. V'tanyo, and it states, Rabbi Yosi Haglili states the following, Tuma al atzmecha, hey chametz oser bahanosh choshiva. Not only you, Rabbi Yehuda, and I think Rabbi Shimon as well, who hold not only is it oser after the week-long festivities of the Pesach, the additional chametz that's left over, but you also, of course, learn that it's oser to have hana during the 7 days of Pesach. Asks Rabbi Yosi Haglili, Tama al atzmecha, heich chametz oser b'hana kol shiva. He's asking on them, how is it oser b'hana all 7 days? Granted, it's oser b'achila, but why is it oser b'hana? So here we see again that the mashmos of lo ye'ochel is only an iser of achila, so Yosi Haglili, not iser of hana. Shiny Hasan, the Gemara answered, the Omar Kro, it says, V'lo ye'ro'eh l'chas sa'or. It says the word lo ye'ro'eh l'chas sa'or shel chaye. It's not a kasha of Rabbi Abba because there's an inclusion that it says lo ye'ro'eh l'cha, teaching me that shel chahi, that you can have hana. V'rabbanan shel cha iyata roya. And the Rabbanan, what do? Shel chahi ata roya, aval ata roya shel achim v'shel gavoya. They learn out that this lecha is teaching me that your own, it says, you cannot see, but you can see the chametz of others and from hektesh, from gavoya. V'idoch, and Rabbi Haglili, trei lecha ksive. It's written twice lecha, thereby teaching me, one, an iser, that there's no iser of hana, and there's also that you can see your own, but you cannot see shel achem v'shel gavoya. V'idach, and the Rabbanon, chad benachrish kibashtu v'chad benachrish shelo kibashtoi. One of the lechas teaching me that you can see the chametz of acherim, of nachri, that you have not kibashto, you don't have the dominion, you don't have rule over. And we have the other lecha teaching, you can also see the chametz of that nachri that you do have rule over, do have dominion over. And Rabbi Haglili tlasa lecha ksive. He says, it says lecha 3 times. and therefore we learn the third lecha for that purpose. V'idach in the Rabbanon, chad b'saor v'chad b'chametz v'tzrichi. They say that the additional lecha keeps teaching me that one is aser, or actually in this case, one is mutter to see the chametz of a nachri, and the other one is mutter to see the saor of the nachri. Now, why do we need them both? V'tzrichi, we need both because there's call it a maila, a strength of saor and a strength of chametz. The strength of saor is that saor causes other things to become chametz. The maila of chametz is that it's edible. So here you have that when it comes to the chametz of a nachri, so there you'll say that there you can see that chametz in your possession because it doesn't have the strength to make something else chametz. So therefore, we also then teach saor, because when it comes to saor, you might think saor has the strength to make something else chametz, but saor has a leniency that doesn't something that you would eat. So therefore, you might think only saor, because it doesn't have something that you could eat, can be able to be seen by the Jew, the other person's, the nachri's saor. So therefore, we need both of them, both the heter to see the nachri's saor as well as to see the nachri's chametz.